Right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome members, officers, and members of the public to this meeting of the Letchworth Committee. Before the meeting starts, I'd like to invite the committee member and scrutiny officer to explain how proceedings will work. Louis.
Thank you, Chair. If you wish to speak during a debate, please use the speak button on your microphone unit and wait for the Chair's permission. Where a vote is required, voting will take place using the yes, no, abstain buttons on your microphone units. The results of the vote will be visible in the room and on the YouTube stream and will be announced for the recording. Are there any questions before we start the meeting? No? Back to you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Apologies for absence. I have apologies from councillors Phil Weeder, Tamsin Thomas and Morgan Derbyshire. Any other apologies? No, I can see everybody else is here, which is great. Right, minutes of the meeting of the 9th of March 2022 and the 26th of May 2022. I'd like to propose that we take these as read and approve as a true record the minutes of the meetings of the committees held on the 9th of March and the 26th of May. Can I please have a seconder?
Speak before you, after seconding. Minute 36, I think, is perhaps unfortunately worded, and I think the word replacement rather than broken might be more appropriate.
I will pass that on. Thank you very much, Councillor Mantle. With that being said, are you happy to second the minutes with that amendment? Wonderful. In that case, can we go to the vote on the minutes, please?
That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you. There is no other business notified as far as any other business goes. Chair's announcements. In accordance with council policy, this meeting will be audio and video recorded and streamed live via YouTube. The audio recording will be available via mod.gov and the video will be available on YouTube. Members are reminded to make declarations of interest before an item. The detailed reminder about this and speaking rights is set out under the Chair's announcements on the agenda. Right, our next item is a sad item. It is with great sadness that we learn of the death of the former executive member of Housing Environmental Health, Councillor Gary Grindle, at the age of 61. Gary served as district councillor for the Letchworth-Wilbury ward for 26 years and left an indelible mark on North Herts Council. Gary was an amazing person. He did so much outside of his role as a councillor for the community. He really inspired me to get into politics and get involved, and I think he was an awesome person. And I would like to open up the floor to any other councillors that might like to say a little something. Can I start off with Councillor Mantle, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. He was not only a friend and a colleague on the council, but also because he was my councillor in where I live in his ward. I think he was a fantastic person. Whenever anything cropped up, you could go to Gary and you'd know that it would get fixed and fixed efficiently, properly and very well. I think he will be greatly missed by the people of Wilbury and the people of North Herts as a whole.
Thank you, Councillor Mantle. Councillor Hone.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I echo what Councillor Mantle said. I knew Gary from probably over 20 years as a councillor, and we had mutual respect for each other, and he had mutual respect for all other councillors on our opposition side, which was nice to see and nice to hear. He was very supportive of the community, not just the Wilbury community, but the Letchworth community and North Herts community at large, and was greatly, I say, respected by the community as well as by councillors. And there's nothing I could ever think of negative that happened with Gary. Gary always gave an honest opinion. He never took the opportunity to have digs. He was open, honest and trustworthy. And for that, he had a lot of respect for me in particular. So thank you for the opportunity to say a few words.
Thank you, Councillor Hone. Councillor Levitt.
Thank you, Chair. Echo exactly what the other two have already said. And I think the other thing to remember about Gary is what he was involved with outside the council as well. I served with him on the board of what was Howard Cottage at the time when he chaired that. And he spent an awful lot of time, devoted an awful lot of time to that and making sure that housing stuff and everything was done right. And went through a very difficult time at one point with Howard Cottage and some changes that were going on there. And it's also his time at the football club and the stuff he spent there as well. And I think Gary's sort of involvement in lots of community stuff apart from the council and I think he'd be sadly missed by many people.
So West Ham.
Councillor Prendergast.
Thank you, Chair. Having worked with Gary last year as his deputy, he was excellent at his job. He was a really, really good councillor. He was also brilliant in his exec role. He was an absolutely fantastic chap, most of all. Really, really, really nice guy. He was an absolute pleasure to work with. And I never heard one person say one bad word about Gary. And he will be really, really badly missed. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Plater.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to echo the words of everybody here tonight. I mean, Gary was an incredible councillor and an incredible human being. And even as he was as he came towards the end, he was still incredibly supportive of the work that was going on at the council and to me personally as well. Whilst I was standing as a candidate, it was a real, well, I guess although we knew Gary was ill, it was a real shock to see him go, and to echo the words of other councillors tonight, he will be sorely missed, not just by this council, but by his community and his family and friends. Thank you.
And Councillor Amy Allen.
So I knew Gary back when we started, well, we didn't start, when I took over doing the Wilbury Community Cafe. He's the one that got it kick-started nearly 10 years ago now. And you always had his support in any of those things that you wanted to do, but he loved anything that was community-based that could bring people together. He always had time for you. He always made you feel like part of the team. And even though he served nearly 30 years on the council, he'd still be there listening to the newbie giving him advice because he always liked to learn. He was always interested in something new, and he was always happy to understand something new or anything that was changed. He was just a breath of fresh air. He was my counsellor, he was my colleague, and he was my friend. And I'm going to miss him so much. And I'm really sad he's gone.
Thank you, Amy. I'm going to ask that we take a minute's silence to remember Gary, and thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Right. Thank you very much, everybody. We are going to move on to our next item, and that is we were going to hear from the Letchworth Garden City bid. We have got with us today Kathy Andrews and Alice Johnson, who are going to provide an update on the work being done in the Letchworth area.
Hello, everybody. Oh, I need to press the button. Thanks, everyone. So we have been working really hard at the moment on rebranding the bid. We had this vision of combining Letchworth Garden City values and history with modern aesthetics to appeal to a different demographic than we've appealed to previously with the era of social media, and to give Letchworth Garden City that presence that it requires online in order to attract a new audience. With that has been the relaunch of a new website, which has been launched purposefully, not perfect, because we've taken a bit of a different approach in working closely with our bid members. So listening to what their suggestions are and what they require from our new website. That approach has kind of taken us through in regards to events and how we're collaborating with them more. So, for example, our food and drink festival, which was the weekend just gone past, sorry, the previous weekend, that was our first main event, not restricted by so many COVID regulations. And we saw a 20,000 person footfall that weekend, which was fantastic because that is our previous pre-pandemic footfall for main events. So it was great to see such a huge jump. Obviously we missed out due to adverse weather on the Christmas light switch on, which was a shame because that's always a big event for Letchworth Bid. In hindsight, we made the right call given what happened with the weather in other towns and things and safety issues. But that was fantastic. And the really, really nice thing about that event is I think the community was happy to come together and see the numbers and see the atmosphere. The feedback we had from the traders was fantastic, with many of them selling out by 2 p.m. on the first day. We had members of the public coming up to us, volunteering themselves for future events, which is almost unheard of, just because they thought the atmosphere was lovely and that it had all come together really well. So we were really pleased with that. We're also working at the moment on our tourism strategy. So it's in the very early stages. So we don't have tons to talk about on that as well, because we're working with other organisations. So we're not able to speak on that as much as we'd like. But that also involves potentially a tourism information centre as part of our office in the arcade. We see the tourism appeal in Letchworth Garden City being the world's first garden city, especially in comparison to other bids that don't have our USP. So some areas for discussion have been, for example, the Royal Horticultural Society, and lots of other towns are featured within that, and we're not, and we should be. So we're pursuing that in collaboration with other bids and also with other organisations within Letchworth. Coming up, we've got quite a few events. We've got our Green Festival. We've got, at the moment, especially this weekend, we're supporting the Letchworth Festival. We've got the World Food and Music in September and the Christmas Festival. There are other events that which I know is a pain, but I can't publicly speak on them because we're supporting them. We're not the organisers. And again, working with other businesses, well-known businesses within the town and organisations. So we'll be able to release more details about those, but it isn't our place to be able to do that this evening. But other than that, that's it.
Thank you very much. I've had a look at the website. I can see how it's being used and adapted all the way through, which is good. I'm very glad to see more use and more focus being put on the unique selling points of being the world's first garden city. I think to bring in tourism, that's got to be good, and to bring in footfall, that's got to be good. Are there any questions from anybody else? Councillor Hone.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Thank you also for the presentation from the bid. Interactions with the Heritage Foundation. I would imagine you need to be quite strong with them, as they probably will be involved in certainly the heritage of the town, but also in some of the things that you're doing. What are your interactions with the Heritage Foundation?
So we meet regularly with them, and we have a member of the Heritage Foundation on our board. So our interactions with them are positive because I think we're all moving towards the same goal at the moment. Hopefully they are seeing from the new leadership that the bid has, given circumstances from last year, that we are very transparent in the way that we operate. And so we've made it clear that our goals are what they are, and it would appear that they're happy to work with us on those.
Thanks for that. Also, food festival, even though on Sunday when it was raining, but it was still enjoyable. Thank you.
Councillor Bloxham.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to say about the food festival, it's fantastic. Yet again, every time it never fails to delight. And to get my family out, a whole thing, I think that's good. Every year we do that, and I think it really is testament. And I think I hate Facebook and things like that. I'm really not a great fan of it. But actually, there was a few moans in the town. Oh, what are we doing at the Jubilee and things like that? And I looked at that at first. I thought, and I thought, well, hang on, no, that's people actually saying they enjoy what goes on in Letchworth and what you're organising, and they want more. So it was just really to say, well done, all very good.
Thank you. We have seen some of the feedback that's taken place in regards to the Jubilee. I'm like you, and I think as a team, we don't really pay much attention to Facebook because you will always get people as humans more disposed to the negativity. But we have listened to that feedback because we took a bit of a different approach to the Jubilee this year. So not this year, but the Jubilee in general, but this year the approach with our bid levy payers, because we decided to work more collaboratively with them. So we had a breakfast meeting and spoke to everybody about that, what they wanted to see with the Jubilee. And there was actually a real mixed bag of those that supported the Jubilee and wanted to make a thing of it, and those that didn't. They didn't agree with the money being spent for, you know, their own personal beliefs. So out of respect for that, what we did was support the areas of the town that were happy to put their energies into the town centre and to the Jubilee. Unfortunately, on the weekend, we were let down by quite a few suppliers, which was a shame. So some of the entertainment that we had fixed for the various locations that were promoting the Jubilee, the morning of the event let us down, and they cited adverse weather conditions, which was a bit of a shame. But we just took a bit of a different approach to it. So whilst we do listen to the public's feedback, we're trying to build our relationship with our community, and hopefully they feel like we listen to them in regards to supporting where we could.
Councillor Plater.
Thank you very much, Chair. I just wanted to ask about the tourism strategy in particular, and whether that was being developed in co with the council and the Heritage Foundation and other Letchworth bodies, including the public. Thank you.
So at the moment, we're kind of collaborating across various platforms, because there was money available to bids through the Welcome Back Fund in regards to creating a strategy as a bid. So there was this kind of initial conversation that was had between ourselves, Royston and Hitchin, and that's sort of developing as it is. Then the bid itself has its own ideas for tourism strategy, because obviously we do operate as an independent unit outside of the council and the Heritage Foundation. And then we've been privy to a couple of meetings with Stephen Gordon Wilson, in which we're hoping, or he's hoping, to initiate our first multi-agency kind of conversation in regards to the strategy, because the key theme that Kathy and I have always said since joining the bid in our capacities is that it appears to me that a lot of people are working on the same thing and are not being open with one another, therefore we're wasting time and resources. So hopefully we'll begin to pull those together to save us working on things independently and perhaps wasting time, and also depending on our demographics coming up with very different answers. So hopefully we'll start to see that as the summer goes by, and we'll continue to work with Hitchin on a couple of ideas that we've got in regards to tourism.
Okay, that was really good. Thank you very much. It was great to get so much information. Really appreciate your time. You're free to leave should you wish, or you can stay along if you want to. Right. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to the public participation, and we're going to start with Culturewood CIC, and Tanya Dixon is going to give us a verbal presentation. Hello.
Hi, verbal presentation. That's good, because I hadn't prepared anything in paper. I had a technical issue with a pair of secateurs and the wire outside my house yesterday, so I have no internet at the moment. So my name's Tanya Dixon. I run a small social enterprise based in Hertfordshire. I have 4 other women that sit on the board with me. One of them is Hilary Kemp, who you may be very aware of. So she's one of my directors, along with some other people from Hertfordshire. And we run outdoor educational sessions, mainly for families with children, but also for adults. I have approached the committee to ask for some funding for a new project. So I've been running wellbeing sessions for adults in Welwyn Hatfield for the last 6 months. They were funded by the Welwyn Hatfield Community Funding Grant, and they've been really well received. And I just want to really duplicate that in North Herts. I want to use Norton Common, which I work on already, and I have good established relationship with the Frenzell group that I sit on with Glyn and other people. Yes, so yeah, we'll be doing, what I'd like to run is 8 sessions with up to about 8 adults. They are not therapeutic as such, but they take a therapeutic approach. I'm not a therapist. I'm a training wilderness therapeutic practitioner with a qualified forest school practitioner, also studying outdoor educational, environmental education at master's level. So I've got a passion for environmental education outdoors. And yeah, I want to use Norton Common basically. but it doesn't pay for itself. I could charge people privately, I could charge people 40, 50 pounds a session, but then you're only getting a certain demographic, and I don't want that. I want to be open to everyone. I want everyone to be able to access it, which is how we've done it in Welwyn Hatfield very successfully. I've had some very positive feedback from people with either mental health issues or not, all to say that they've found them very relaxing, very supportive groups, and they've made new friends, which is great, I think. So that's it. Any questions?
Thank you very much. I'll start with a question, if I may. Where are you going to be getting your clients from? Where do you sort of not necessarily advertise, but get referred, or how do you get people coming along?
So it's a combination of using contacts within Letchworth. So there are some organisations that work with Romanian immigrants that I've establishing relationships with at the moment. I'm also working with various schools locally, with forest schools. So there's the kind of the teachers particularly spring to mind for some wellbeing. And also I'm working, just happen to be working with the Hertfordshire, very beginnings of a relationship with the Hertfordshire Constabulary, looking at approaching them sessions for first responders, so police, ambulance. So there are lots of different places I can go. Also, what I found that I worked when I was in Welwyn Hatfield, I just basically approached loads of local charities. So whether that was drug misuse or well, various alcohol, I just approached them and they were really open. I just went and showed them what I wanted to do, and they sent people to me. So
thank you very much.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any questions? Yes, Councillor Bloxham.
I just wondered whether you had any other forms of funding for this at all, whether it was a joint funded opportunity.
No, not this one.
Councillor Levin.
Thank you, Chair. Interesting project. How do you measure how successful it's been?
Well, you can with, it depends. If some funding, it's just going to be feedback. So I'm literally going to give my clients, for want of a better word, I don't really see them that way, but I will give them feedback, and they will fill in forms, and I will then feed that back to whichever committee has asked for it. There are ways where I can collect data, so I can take surveys basically of them before we start the sessions. We can do them during, and then we can do them at the end, and then we can look and see if there's any improvement. To be honest, it's a well-being session. It's about how they feel, and that's very unquantifiable, isn't it? It's not something you can say statistically that I feel 5 today. Well, yeah, okay, but it doesn't really mean anything. So people come back. People have good things to say.
That was actually going to be my next question. With your Welwyn and Hatfield one, how was your retention of people attending?
Everyone that came stayed for all the sessions. We're doing a back walk tomorrow night for one of our final sessions. So yeah.
Okay, that sounds excellent. I don't appear to have any other questions. The recommendation is that an award of £1,000 to Culturewood CIC to provide new sessions focused on adult mental health and well-being. May I have a proposer for this, please? Councillor Mantle. Thank you very much. May I have a seconder, please? Councillor Roshiria Shaka, thank you very much. In that case, can we go to the vote, please?
That's carried. Thank you.
Wonderful. There we go. That's gone through. Congratulations. We look forward to hearing how it all goes for you. And I would invite you to come back at a future date to let us know how it's been, if that works for you. You're welcome to stay, or you are welcome to leave. Thank you very much. Our next recommendation is to Green Care at Norton CIC. They're looking to purchase a Grillo G55 walking tractor. Ray Wilson is going to give us a presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's all right. I'm going to wait. I want to know what that is.
Right, okay.
No, it's okay.
If you're in the days before COVID, if anybody can remember that far back, I was here and I successfully applied for funding before. So some of you may be familiar with what we do. For those who aren't, we're a social and therapeutic horticulture group working with adults with experiencing loneliness, long-term unemployment, and associated mental health issues. We've been going for a few years now, and thanks to the generosity of yourselves and other funders, we've expanded quite dramatically, really, especially in the last 12 months. We now operate on 3 sites in Letchworth. The latest one is a piece of land we've acquired at Standalone Farm. And the idea is, initially, when I first sat here, we were very much charitable, therapeutic sort of organisation, hoping to improve well-being. We wanted to slightly move that on to become a social enterprise whereby the people taking part could see that it wasn't just a nice thing to do and made them feel good, but there was some purpose to it and some future to it. And one thing I'd like to, if I may, is just share a very brief case study of one of our participants, which I think illustrates why we're worthy of supporting. I'll anonymize this person. So over one of the lockdowns, Jay lost his job. His wife lost her job too, and they had 3 teenage boys, which put them in a very bad situation. Went to the job centre. He had previously been working in a warehouse situation, and as he would have said, it does my head in. And it literally did do his head in. He said there was no daylight. You couldn't have a concept of time passing. You know, it just, so he was under the care of a mental health team through the NHS, and he was referred to us. He kept going back to the job centre and they kept saying, yeah, we've got a lovely warehouse job for you. You know, we know you're and it really was getting to be quite difficult for him. He kept saying, I want to work outside. That's what I want to do. So he came to us, extremely hard-working guy, very obviously had his difficulties, but eventually he did get a job working in a nurseries, which was everything he wanted. He wanted to be outdoor, growing plants and so on, and he got that job. Now, from our point of view, that's not the only success we've had like that, but it's a very clear success. And I would ask you, in thinking about funding us, that the saving to the public purse that has involved is, I would suggest, in the tens of thousands. You know, if it comes off benefits, it comes off mental health therapy and so on and so forth. And that's kind of what we're aiming to do with the phase that we're in now, is so people can see how this sort of business runs and that there is a way out of unemployment, maybe into worthwhile activity. The other thing I would say about us, I'm quite passionate about the food and flowers that we produce being very ethical, sustainable, not organic, because we can't go through all that palaver of certifying organic, but grown with organic principles. There'll be 0 food miles. We sell them in the shop at Standalone, and the plan is to get more involved with the Grange estate, which is obviously at the back of us, get people to come so they can buy reasonably priced produce, you know, fresh from the field, you know, 20 yards air miles, you know. And just to finish off, one of the things that has been a real surprise is so far is the success of the cut flowers that we produce. People are beginning to wise up to, let's not say supermarkets, but the larger outlets for flowers, and they're wising up to the fact that some of these are produced in the most diabolical conditions for the workforces around the world. We have been just recently growing English country garden flowers, and they've just disappeared off the shelves. And people are getting to be aware of, should I say, the politics around their food and we're hoping to capitalize on that. I'm rambling on, sorry, I can tell.
I wouldn't say you're rambling on. I think you've given a really good explanation of the charity and the group. What I would say though is, could you tell us a little more about a Grillo G55 walking tractor?
Oh, couldn't live. I don't know how anyone can live without one. It's Can draw a picture. Do you know what a walking tractor is? It's basically a tractor, smaller, with handlebars. Yeah,
like a big rotavator.
Sorry,
kind of like a big rotavator.
Very big. Yeah, yeah. And it has at the minute it's sitting with a rotavator attachment on the back, but you can put all sorts of clever things on, like plough attachments and so on. The thing is, if you've got a big lump of land, you can't do it with spades and forks. You'd grow old and die before you'd finished it. So you need what I would call the big toys to do it. But it is basically, imagine a very big rotavator, and you're sort of there with it, yeah.
Speaking as someone with an allotment, I struggle with turning over myself. I can't imagine trying to turn over a large piece of land. That was a brilliant explanation. Thank you very much. Do I have any questions from councillors? Councillor Mantle.
Thank you. I've got a couple of questions. I'm not absolutely clear from the report. So would this walking tractor be used every year, or is it really just to prepare the land for your occupation and cultivation?
Yeah. It will be used fairly constantly. Without getting into the details too much, we're trying to organise the land on permaculture lines, which would involve the top 4 inches of soil being regularly tilled, but nothing deeper. So that is, and it will also be used to turn in cover crops. When the main crops come out, plant cover crops, they're cut down, turned in, and for turning in lovely stuff like manure. So it will be used certainly every year and certainly every month, I would say.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Councillor Levin.
Thank you. I was wondering what a walking tractor is. I was imagining this thing a bit like an AT-AT in Star Wars. But as you now point out, it's the operator that walks, not the tractor itself. Just had a look at it there. It's a big bit of kit, isn't it? Have you got somewhere secure to keep it in that?
We are being provided with for want of a better word, a small shipping container that will be on site, and we can lock it up on site.
Excellent. Anything else, Councillor Levin? No? Brilliant. Okay, I think that has been very explanatory. I think it's been very interesting, and I can't wait to come and get some flowers. So the recommendation is £1,050. Does that cover the whole cost of the tractor?
Cost.
That covers half the cost.
Sorry. Yeah, half the cost.
And how are you obtaining the other half of the cost?
From our funds that we have.
Excellent, thank you. So it's £1,050 to Green Care at Norton CIC to purchase a Grillo G55 walking tractor. May I have a proposer, please? Councillor Bloxham. May I have a seconder, please? Councillor Levitt. In that case, May we go to the vote, please, Louis?
That's carried. Thanks, Chair.
Wonderful. That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you, because this is not the first time you have awarded us money, and we're very grateful. Thank you very much.
I believe a few of the councillors would like to come and visit at some point and have a look when you have your tractor up and running.
Bring a carrier bag for stuff.
Right. Oh, indeed. You are free to go along if you so wish. I have one more thing on the agenda, and that is information about the Wilbury School and Parents Association grant that we gave and had to put back and we've put on hold. Glyn Holt is going to provide us a verbal update. Hi, Glyn.
Hello. Yeah, so it's an update really rather than a whole grant up. Yes, right. So the update. So the current situation. So just briefly, we applied for a grant for £2,000 to buy a cabin on the Wilbury School site, calling it an eco cabin to run various things out of, one of which is TerraCycle recycling that the school and Transition Town Letchworth take part in. It's been massively delayed. And so to give you a current situation, nothing's stopped whilst this cabin hasn't arrived. We've carried on and everything's been operating as it would, just in fairly inconvenient situation. We now have planning permission. It's been granted, that's been delaying us. That's the main delay that we've had. And we now need to re-secure the grants, get them in our accounts, apply for quotes to buy it, and then we can enjoy it. So why was it delayed? Well, multiple things. So it's a collaborative project. So the TerraCycle runs through Transition Town. The funds go to the school PTA, and it's all carried out in a shed on the school site. So it's a big collaboration, which, as I've found, makes it quite difficult to keep everybody together and keep it all moving along. So what's delayed it? Well, COVID has obviously been a massive delay in it. Another massive delay, and really big delay, was the school has had a massive building project. The whole school has been insulated. It's had a fence put around it and a security camera system put in, which has meant that the space where the cabin was going to go has been occupied by builders and contractors. The school itself has expanded massively by getting on for 0.5 metre all the way around it. So as to where this cabin was going, the head wasn't willing to commit and allow it to progress. So that put it all on hold for a long time. And finally, the planning application. I've never done one, and people on the PTA hadn't done one. And so we had to get plans drawn up, somebody to complete it, answer all the questions from the planning team, backwards and forwards. And then there was a delay in getting the planning. So we got planning permission now. So that's all sorted out. The school building works are all completed. So there's no reason it couldn't go ahead almost immediately now. And just to give you a bit more, in the last year, so it's been about a year, I think, since we got the grant. And yeah, I would have loved it on the day we got the grant to have the cabin and just appear and we can all sort it out. But nothing stopped. We carried on. We recycled about 0.5 ton of waste. So for those that don't know, TerraCycle is a company, and it recycles hard to recycle plastics that the council don't accept and nobody else would accept locally. So crisp packets, beauty products like the soft tubes, toothbrushes and toothpaste tubes, and it recycles all that sort of thing. So we've recycled about 0.5 ton of waste in the year that we've been waiting. All that funds goes to, so that raises a very small donation, and that goes to the school PTA and is invested in the school. We collect other items, for example, pens. The main driver behind it, because it's a Transition Town project, is to get as much recycled as possible rather than the funds raised. That's a massive bonus. But we also collect pens for a different school who's already set up, so we can't join that scheme as such. So that raises funds for them. In the year, the whole thing has changed massively with supermarkets starting to accept flexible plastics. And so we dropped out of about 3 schemes have ended, which were really big schemes for us, which were crisps, baby food pouches and bread bags. But it's an odd thing in that brands sponsor these schemes. And so for crisps, there's 2 schemes accepting crisps. The Walkers one ended, but KP and P1 has carried on. We can't join that, but it's in Hitchin. So we carried on accepting crisp packets, and we transfer them to Hitchin and give them to collectors there that give it all their funds to a different charity. So we've lost those, but TerraCycle started growing in other areas, and it seems to be moving more towards hard plastics. And an example of a scheme that we've joined is compostable plastics, Lavazza Eco coffee pods, and they're made of compostable plastics. And so they collect those and they compost the whole lot and process it. And to our knowledge, it's the only free national bioplastics scheme that's happening. Yeah, so we've got drop-off points in Morrison's. That's been massively upgraded recently and is going really well. And the schools also now have drop-off points in their foyers for various schemes. Looking at this, the funds it generates by no means justifies the expense on the cabin itself, but it's seen as a resource to educate. It's changing perceptions of a crisp packet being a waste thing that would go in the bin and just be binned tidily into seeing it as a resource. Aside of that, having the drop-off points in schools, families send waste in, and so children are one of the best persuaders to parents to change their habits. And I know of at least 3 parents that didn't recycle anything and now actually recycle and use the council grey bin and the paper box. So aside of what we have achieved by recycling that 1/2 ton of extra, some residents of the area are now actually recycling, whereas everything prior to the schools promoting this was going in the purple bin. Yeah, aside of that, we have limited space. So it also houses school uniform. And in the last year, we've seen an uptake in demand. I've done it since my children started school, and what's that, 10 years. And uptake in pre-loved school uniform has been very low, but recently we've seen a massive uptake in demand and people actually using it and seeing it as a resource. And then looking at the cabin and its future use, what will we use it for? So it'll obviously become TerraCycle. It'll carry on that role. But it enables it to be a clean and tidy sorting base. We're trying to run out of a tiny shed at present where everything's on top of you. And it really needs me there to direct people and show them where everything goes. If we can put it in a nice tidy cabin, then people go along and spend half an hour and achieve quite a bit relatively easily. And we can involve more volunteers and make it a sustainable thing going forwards. We can also involve the children is the hope to educate them, and they can take on whole schemes. They can collect it, sort it, package it, weigh it, post it off and see the money coming back, and maybe even spend the money how they see fit. It can become a food bank. So what we started in both schools, it's Icknield and Wilbury schools, we started what we've called eco shelves, which have uniform and food, non-perishable food on which parents are allowed free access to. They're not called need shelves because we don't want to attach any stigma to it. So we just said anybody can use them, and they just go, and they are well used and they're not abused either. School uniform will carry on running out of there, but we'll be able to set it up more as a shop so we can invite families in who need uniform. They can come and see what we've got in a nice environment, try it on, take what they want. We could even have events there selling the uniform. And it enables volunteers to see what we've got and give them a much nicer working space. One of the things that we've had a problem with is somewhere to store litter pickers locally. They're currently in people's garages and sheds, so it can go in, litter pickers can go in there. And if the council would be interested, we'd be happy to store council litter pickers there and loan them out to the Letchworth community. We'd also have the PTA events would be there, school events, and the school eco club could probably meet there. So as you can see, the cabin is much more than a TerraCycle base. We're seeing it as an educational resource that covers a lot of bases. Yeah, I've gone on. Thank you.
You've done brilliantly, Glyn. Basically, this was just because we've put the funding over, which is an unusual thing for us to do. We needed to have you come in and let us know what was going on. You've done that very well. We all know that this is a brilliant project. We all voted for it. I believe Councillor Hone just has one quick question. I don't
Just quickly, have you looked at blister packs?
So that's the tablets, isn't it? Yeah. So we can't recycle them. They can only be recycled by pharmacies because of the fact they may contain tablets. I understand. We do get them as contamination and we pass them on, and Superdrug in town have got a big box that we, so any contamination we get goes to Superdrug. We would accept them in, but we can't because of the reason I've said. But I frequently direct people there. I frequently get asked that question, and with Superdrug in town, we're well covered anyway. So
that was brilliant. Thank you, Glyn, and we look forward to seeing the cabin as and when it arrives. It's a very exciting project. Thank you for coming along, and again, you're welcome to leave should you wish to. And I'm then going to move on to our grants and community update. And Ash, thank you very much for standing in today and coming and joining us.
Thank you, Chair. This is my first time at Letchworth for about 15 years. I think the last time I was at Letchworth Committee, we were at one of the schools over at the Grange Estate, back when I was a consultation officer. I do remember Councillor Hone and Councillor Levitt, I believe, from those meetings. So yeah, Danny has sent his apologies, but he will be your regular community engagement officer for Letchworth moving forward. In terms of the update from the report, it's good to come to Letchworth because we all do it slightly differently. When I go to Royston, I cover Royston and Bulldog, and I spend most of my update talking about the grants and what we should give them, a lot of discussion about that, but you did it all by yourselves. So that's smoother, a lot quicker, so I might pass it on to Royston and Bulldog to try that method. I keep looking at the screen to see if there's any subtitles come up, but not so far, so that's all good. In terms of updates, you've got 8.21. It's just an update on what the community engagement team has been up to. I'm not going to go through all those things, but you can see that the team covers a diverse range of activities. We provide support to the Health Protection Board funding. We support the councillor community surgeries. The team sit in numerous network groups across the Letchworth and further afield. We sit on it. We attend JAG, we attend SAG, we assist with event management, putting events on. So we've all got our skill sets and work well as a team. 8.22, and this is something I don't do in my reports, but something which I might start including. It's just an update for grants that have been received by groups previously by the committee. And just evidence showing that the works have been carried out. So you awarded £1,000 to Letchworth Garden City Bowls Club for some ditch repairs, and you can see in 8.22 that those ditch repairs have been fixed. Letchworth Corner Sports Club, I believe this was a Community Facilities Capital Grants Fund application, which was granted £10,000, and it shows you before and after shots of the showers, which been a massive improvement. Financial implications, as you've awarded the grants in full tonight, that will leave the committee with 9,906 for the remaining 3 meetings of the calendar year. That's all I'd like to say in the report. Just as an aside, there are a few events coming up in Letchworth that I've been working with the organisers, which are coming up shortly. We've got the first ever colour fun run in Letchworth, been held this coming Saturday at Norton Common, and that's raising funds for the Garden House Hospice and also for Home Start. So if you want to plug that event to within your patches, take up so far has been a bit slow, so hopefully a bit of a push, we can get a good attendance and good fundraising for the different charities. On On the 25th of June, we have Armed Forces Day, returning to Broadway Gardens. And on the same day, we have the Garden House Hospice and Isabel Hospice Fountain to Fountain Challenge hike. If any members or want to attend, I will be actually taking part in that. Don't know why, but 16.5 miles. So anyone here willing to join me, we're more than welcome. That's supporting the Garden House Hospice. That's all the updates I had, Chair. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to take those for Danny.
Well, I don't see any questions coming up, but what I would like to do, which I know is slightly out of the ordinary, is to do a vote of thanks to the Grants and Communities team, because the work that you do is really appreciated. We wouldn't be able to do these grants without it, and it's really appreciated by all the different groups in Letchworth that you support. So I'd actually like to do a vote of thanks, if that's okay. Louis, are you able to do that for me? Thank you very much. Okay, if you'd like to vote. Unsurprisingly, that is unanimous. We do really appreciate your work. Thank you very much. Item 8, ward matters and outside organisations. Does anyone have anything they would like to bring to the committee? Councillor Levitt.
Actually, a little bit on the last one. Grants. Ash, is it possible just to circulate closing dates for the grants before the next area committees? Give us a list of when the dates are, the final dates for grant applications, just so we can sort of prompt anybody we know that's thinking of applying.
The website, but what we can do is we can circulate those through the chair to the group.
Excellent, thank you. I don't see any other comments. So in that case, I would like to, at 21 minutes past 8, bring this meeting to a close. Thank you very much, everybody.